Hey everybody, this is Chris from Avalon Woodworks. We're a custom cabinetry and furniture shop based out of Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And today we're going to talk about how to make new cabinet doors if that's something you want to do at home. So one of the most common doors you're going to see these days is what we call a 5-piece shaker door. It's called a 5-piece because it's actually made up of four pieces, so 2 rails and 2 stiles, and then a center panel like this. So basically what we're going to have to do is make our rails. I'll show you how to cut these on a table saw, make a center panel, and then they'll just fit together and glue together. All in all, it should take less than an hour. So this door I showed you earlier is actually for an upcoming kitchen build that we're working on. This is solid maple. This is probably going to be a little bit out of our budget if we're trying to do this as a quick home job. So instead, I've picked up just a solid piece of 1x6 poplar. This is pre-shaped from Home Depot, and a 1/2 inch 2 foot by 4 foot piece of MDF. This is going to make a great substrate, and we'll talk about the pros and cons of using MDF. So the first step to any build is going to be to cut our pieces down to the sizes that we need, in this case for the doors that we're doing. Normally I would do this on a miter saw, but I wanted to show how it can be done using a table saw, like a job site saw, and the miter gauge that typically comes with it. Since we're going to be cross-cutting our poplar hardwood here, poplar's pretty soft, I've switched to a 60-tooth fine cut blade to make sure that we get nice clean ends. Once the hardwood for our rails and stiles is cut down, I go ahead and cut out our center panel piece. A little bit of math involved here, but all you really have to do is figure out what is the overall size of the door, and then subtract the width of your rails and stiles and add a little bit for the tongue that's going to go into them. Once all of our pieces are cut out, we need to go ahead and cut a groove into the rails and stiles for our panel to fit into later. I'll start with the blade roughly in the center and then bump the fence over until we get the spacing just right. After a few minutes of cutting, adjusting, rinse and repeat, our rails and stiles now have a nice clean center groove and are ready to accept the panel. Here you can see our rails and stiles with a roughly 1/4 inch center groove cut. Should be a nice tight fit when we get our panel cut in just a second. So now we need to cut the tab or tongue, whatever you want to call it, on the center panel that's going to fit into the grooves that we just cut into our rails and stiles. Here I've got what's called a sacrificial fence set up. It's basically just a piece of wood so that I can have the blade right up against the fence without tearing up the nice finished surface on the actual fence that we need. So after following the same process of bumping the fence over, we are now left with a 3/8 inch rabbet that's going to fit into our rails and stiles. So the last bit of shaping parts that we need to do is really just shaping the, I guess what would essentially be the tenons on our rails of the rails and stiles. Again, we're just cutting away about a 1/4 inch at a time. I'll bump the fence over until we're left with about a 1/2 inch tongue that it's going to fit into the assembly that you'll see later. Here you can see the tongue starting to take shape, but I'll still need to adjust the blade a couple times until it's finished. And now we get to put everything together. So one thing I didn't show was that I did do a little bit of hand sanding just with some loose sandpaper just to clean up edges and make things fit together a little bit better. And then now I'm gluing with a glue called, I think it's Tight Bond Quick and Thick. I like it because it doesn't run and it dries clear, and so it actually works pretty well for door assembly. So here a little bit later, you can see I've already glued all 4 joints, and I'm just checking some measurements. You might notice that the long pieces, or the stiles, I left a little bit long. That way I can get everything exactly to the measurements that I need, square everything up, and then cut it all off on the table saw. Here you just see everything in clamps, and I'll wait about an hour before cutting it. So the last step here, I'm just trimming down the stiles that we left long on purpose, and then I'll clean up the other 3 sides, a little bit of hand sanding, and we are done. All right guys, so after a little bit of sanding, our door is now done. So as you can see, not too hard at all. A little bit of sanding just to kind of smooth out some edges here. With some machines, this is a little bit faster, but this is definitely something you can do at home for not a whole lot of money. So thanks for watching, hope you learned something.